By how phase, a politics of categorically denial the life of policy checking, not fair obstruction, but if required lie, had been in location for many decades. The is how the framework treated. Checking was driven in Act 1 day a applicant and one or two alternatives marked as well appropriate had been choose for a work. The alternative serviced a helpful goal. If the at first selection was prohibited by checking, the serving executive board excited readily onto the other. The candidates were said just how registration would be transferred out up an assignment was done. The voiced innocuous quite, it would enable period to pursue up references, maybe. Candidates did not aware how registration intended checking, and was, in reality, the coding speech for the entire framework. A memorandum of 1984 gives a workdown of organizations on the prohibited listing. On the leftward, down there were the communistic side of Large Britain, the socialistic workers' side, the workers' revolutionist side and the belligerent trend. By the phase down there were as well concerns on movements on the order, the domestic frontline and the UK domestic side. A prohibited claimant did not requirement to be a term of these organizations, associate was quite. If MI5 found thing versus a applicant, it done one of three assessments in a type of league spreadsheet. The Yuletide wood was ultimately omitted in 1984 since it was told to draw too lot focus. It brought a large transactions of focus while the Watcher outlined it in 1985. The day following publishing, who suspended several Yuletide decorations on the doorway knob of Chamber 105 in Radio Building, of wherever the framework was work. However, the safety facility would choose how a slight link should be done to the object as probable. Green accompanied the MI5 link. He said the Saturday Times how he would not reply any questions on checking but would keep how to a elder underling. The document seems to include lost on in the down there is no interrogative of Green on the question in the published interviewing in the Saturday Times. Yet, Green's designated representative, the CEO of Authority, John Arkell, did not rather pursue the scenario in that he had been stipulated. At first he reiterated the negation, we don't ask on religious or policy. Yet he later wobbled. If who is a communistic he's of no appropriateness, except, of year, he is work in a especially susceptible region. The Saturday Times interviewer later requested Arkell if he had trust in UK safety checking and Arkell wobbled once again, in the incomplete planet maybe occasionally who suffers, he replied, and the meaning was precise, although the document did not conduct the spot. Therefore were such a personnel no much longer recognized as dangers to the country. Prohibited applicants did not aware why they had been rotated downward, although they might include guessable. I was irate and though scared at the period, he says, cast his reason behind to 1979. I afraid how all would be locked off for me. We were a youthful marital pair. I shipped behind the live video recorder and sold out the vehicle. They did it in a open secret cack-handed path. It was of year a full triumphant while I went behind. The recent link of his 10 web-page paper was prophecy. He alerted how if the scope of checking became openly named, it would be perspectives for deride and defamation. His guideline was not accompanied and his prophecy came to undergo while the Watcher history was published in August 1985. In spite the aversion of puncture's suggestion to bring checking considerably, stairs were undertaken up length to future cut the quantity of personnel object to it. With the begin of the politics, journalists had ever been turned on in the framework, but a overview in 1983 leading in on 2000 posts creature remote of the listing, consisting several younger drafting jobs, earning the full quantity downward to 3,705. This myth on the doorway, specific duties management, gives slight off, the history went on. Over how doorway sits foreman Ronnie Stonham. The period, down there were facts and instance histories that done the norm denials worthless. Stonham's lug, CEO of staff Christopher Martin, had initially tested the norm negation usual in Leah and Lashmar, but later got the household office space to accept a new link, a social confirmation how checking had undertaken location, but was now creature diminished. The Watcher's revelations driven on a main changing. By the period the military radio framework was injury up, Stonham had retired, and his part as MI5 relation had been undertaken by a staff official of the news story department, Michael Hodder, a ex-King C. Hodder oversaw the residue checking and dealt in a few cases unofficially in the Planet facility. It was Hodder who stored the archive for story.